You're with us here on Midcap Radar. The market's off the lows, 40 points, by the way, off the lows. 10,676 is where we are at. The low was 10,641. But, I mean, it looked like it would pull back quite significantly. Well, that is not the case, at least not till right now. The big story, of course, this morning, which I guess had an impact across Asia, was the CFO of the Chinese telecom equipment giant Huawei getting arrested in Canada. Markets were all depressed on the back of that particular news story. And about an hour ago, maybe actually less than an hour ago, there were some comments from a Chinese government spokesperson which sounded all positive, saying that, well, we're at a very advanced stage in terms of negotiation with the US on trade, and that they're pretty confident that they'd be able to reach an agreement in the next 90 days. That generally lifted sentiment across the board. And there is, I mean, that it's still there. I mean, you look at the rest of Asia, markets are off the lows, but there isn't a 360-degree turnaround, so as to speak, at least not right now. We'll, of course, have the European session also kicking off, and we'll sort of look at that. I think the starts are slightly lower, but this is the initial first minute or so for European trade. 3/4 lower on FTSE. CAC is down about 1%. And the other markets, I mean, the Italian market is down 1%. It's coming up on my screen. The Euro Stoxx 50, the composite European index itself, down about 1% or so. But we'll revisit this and see if anything really changes. Let's get you the top stories that we're tracking on Midcap Radar. The markets, of course, are top of the list. The market is off the day's low after a weak session in the morning. Reliance, Maruti and private banks continue to trade weak, while Sun Pharma and Bajaj are somewhat batting for the bulls. Midcap index trails the frontliners. Global weakness continues. Dow futures do see a sharp drop, and fears of US-China trade tensions deepen after the arrest of the Huawei tech CFO in Canada. Crude oil prices slip ahead of the OPEC meet in Vienna. OPEC and allies are expected to cut output to drain the global oil supply glut. Beg your pardon. The Maruti stock takes a knock after management tells CNBC TV18 that demand trends continue to remain quite uncertain. They add that double-digit growth by F519 end looks challenging. Okay, so those are the top stories. We're down 112 points now. Ashwini Gujral is with us to take us through what he makes of things. Ashwini, we spoke at 11:30. You were saying that maybe the second half will turn out to be different. Still hold that view? 2 hours to close?
I would think so, because Dow futures have recovered, plus we've hit some very strong levels. Now, again, to expect that we get into positive terrain would be a bit too much. But I would think that you could have another attempt towards 10,740, 750. So right now, this current dip you can buy into. But overall, given tomorrow's exit polls, etc., you shouldn't be way over your head in long positions, and on rallies possibly try to exit. So having said that, for the moment, Bajaj Auto is a buy with a stop of 2760, target of 2900. CESC is a buy with a stop of 690, target of 720. And PVR is a buy with a stop of 1490, target of 1540.
Fair enough. So, I mean, I think you are of the view that maybe the thing to do is to just sit in the sidelines, watch this unfold at an index level rather than try to jump in, because as you said, there's exit polls, and then there's the reaction to it on Monday, and then the actual polls on Tuesday. So could be fairly volatile.
Yeah, that should be the sense. But given that we are already down 300 points from the highs, I think that way the risk probably is now lower. And even if there are the polls are a disappointment, etc., you would possibly hold on to 10,500, all things being equal. So that way, I think the exit polls may be a smaller event than this global weakness, which is now getting into bigger proportions.
Ashwini, did you have a call on Maruti, and is it once again sort of breaking important levels? Because it's The recent high was what? About 7,800. It's about 72.45 right now.
Well, definitely if chairman is saying that sales will not pick up, then it's a negative, and it's possible that Maruti gets back to the recent lows, which is about 6,500 odd.
All right, Ashwini, any disclosures?
We have long positions on Bank Nifty.
All right, Ashwini, thanks very much for joining in.